I made this blue Elsa dress and it is phenomenal, chef's kiss, everything I could ever dream of in a costume. Everything turned out just so perfect, surprisingly. I have a few pieces of the blue velvet kind of left over, like the scrap pieces, and I hoard fabric like a crazy person. So obviously I kept these, and look at this, this is plenty of fabric to make a new dress with. But that's what we're doing today. We're making this dress, well, something inspired by it, maybe super loosely inspired by it, and maybe it'll be like really, really close. I don't really know quite yet, but I did a bunch of polls on my Instagram and this was the winning design, so that's what we're gonna shoot for. Maybe it will be completely not this dress in the end of it, depending on how much fabric I actually have, or maybe we'll get lucky and it'll be like a little modern Elsa look. I don't want to keep you waiting. In this house we craft in pajamas. Let's get to it. For some reason I thought I was gonna start this last night at like 10:30, and then I was like, no, I'm going to sleep. So I already have all the pieces kind of laid out on my floor. I honestly think that there's plenty here and I should be able to make something out of it. I have a few smaller scrap pieces that I'm gonna try and cut just the top part out of, and I'm gonna try and put as much fabric into the skirt as possible. So I'm using the bigger chunks for the skirt. This is the very last of the fabric that I used to do the quilted petticoat with, and there's totally enough here to get like a lining out for the bodice. Then I've got my pattern. It's already cut out because I've used this one so many freaking times. And I use it all the time because it is an absolute winner. It's the Rose Cafe Bustier by Daria Patterns. 10 out of 10 recommend. I will link it down below because this pattern is, first of all, really, really fun, and second of all, fits me really well. And lastly, I have this bra because every time I make this pattern, I always think to myself, I should just put legit booby cups in it, and then I get ahead of myself and then I end up not doing it, but not this time. No, no, no. My friend Molly gave me this bra. It was part of a whole set, which was friggin' hilarious, by the way. And now it's time to put it to a permanent use, which will be like in a little dress. The tag on this dress says, "Sexy is for everybody." You darn right it is, you darn right it is. Like with any project, I start by turning on a movie because if left to my own thoughts for too long, I don't actually end up getting any work done. Not that that even mattered in this case, because even though you're watching me cut these pattern pieces out very quickly, it did in fact take me all day long. And that is because of reasons I will explain to you now. It has taken me all day to get this cut out. All day. Why? Well, first of all, I cut one piece out and then I was like, you know what I should do? Laundry. And so I did some laundry and then I came back up here. And then I cut another piece out and then I was like, you know what I should do now? Empty the dishwasher. And I haven't been doing this all day, back and forth, back and forth. Then I went to the bank. I did some grocery shopping. Like, I've been procrastinating doing my favorite thing in the entire world by doing things that I don't really like to do, but now my house is clean, my bills are paid, things are really, really good. And I mean, like, I could have had this whole project done, but I also needed to vacuum my floors. Who am I? What have I become? I feel like if I'm gonna procrastinate doing something, I might as well do something like constructive, because last time I procrastinated cutting fabric out, I just spent 3 hours on TikTok, but not this time. Is this growth? I'm gonna tell my therapist about this and she's gonna be really, really proud of me. She's like, you're still procrastinating, but you flipped the script and now it's working for you. It's working for me. Now I'm gonna get back to watching season 5 of RuPaul's Drag Race, which is my favorite season of all time and I've watched it like 5 million times, and sewing. And I still have like most of the day that I could do this. Life is really, really good. Happy weekend. And so with a clean house and a relatively clean conscience, I got back to work, laying out the pattern pieces and pinning them together. Now I've made this specific pattern enough times to know that my workflow is definitely more effective if I get the booby cups completely assembled and ready to go before really starting work on the bodice. So that's where I put my focus. You wouldn't think that assembling said booby cups would take very long, and that's where you and I would both be dead wrong. They take time and an odd amount of precision. And realistically speaking, the booby cups are arguably the most important part of the pattern because so much can go so wrong so fast. But with some luck and an insane amount of precariously practiced skill and attention to small details, I eventually did end up with a relatively alright looking left booby cup. I've found that understitching the top seam of the booby cup is absolutely key when trying to get the fabric to lay the right way. That definitely helped me. This a little bit harder than I thought it was gonna be because normally I would do this with like a little bit different shape. But it's working, it's working. I mean, like, I made sure to have a lot of extra bit. The inside is ugly, don't look at the inside. But the outside's not bad at all. Now I just have to replicate it on this bad boy right here, which making one look decent is one thing, but getting one to match it, that's another thing. It's a whole other ball game. Manipulating the fabric around the foamy cup to look right is tough enough, but then trying to make its nearly identical twin sister is even tougher. Like, I find myself just making small adjustments here and there, and eventually I just adjusted both to match each other, if that makes any sense. I stitched around the booby cup kind of where the underwire is to make sure that the blue fabric stays in place and doesn't shift around. And then I used my overlock machine to trim and secure the edges so that they don't go all wild and fray all over the place. And once that was done, I started assembling the main bodice pieces. I have 3 layers to the bodice: the outer, visible blue velvet layer, the yellow canvas structural layer, and the blue lining layer. Everything gets sewn down together individually and then carefully layered and pinned together. This is the step I always want to take my time on because if I don't layer up the pieces correctly, it doesn't look right when I sew and flip everything right sides out. Ah yes, just look at all those pins. I'd also like to mention that I'm using stretch velvet as the outer fashion layer, and that is most likely a huge mistake. But I'm hoping that the inside structural layer will keep the velvet from getting too disformed and stretching out to the point that it looks like I'm like, you know, smuggling cats or something inside the bodice. I've definitely had that happen before when I've used stretch velvet, and I usually avoid using it for projects like this, but alas, I soldier on. It's wintertime in the northern hemisphere, and it gets super dark super early, so even though it's only 5 p.m., it feels like it's almost midnight, and staying on task is super hard when my brain and body feel like it's bedtime, and all of that makes sewing the boning channels all the more unpleasant. Not to mention the fact that I'm essentially working by the modern day 2023 equivalent of candlelight. I desperately need to replace the light bulbs in my sewing area because using my little nightstand lamp on full blast lighting power is just not cutting it, and sewing by its light makes me feel like a tired old Victorian woman darning her socks by the light of her last candle waiting for her only child to come back from the war. But I digress, and it's time to make some glitter felt. Glitter turd. To make the glitter felt, you simply squeeze out a glitter turd onto the felt of your choice and smear it around as evenly as possible until you've covered the entire desired area. Then you just let it dry overnight. I would recommend just buying glitter felt from the craft store, but it was getting late and I was desperate to not have to drive to the store at the ungodly hour of 7 p.m. So this was my solution. I feel like I got pretty far on this yesterday, and I'm to the point where all I need to do is put the plastic bones in the boning channels and then do like the grommets on the back, and then I can make the skirt, attach the skirt, and then it's bedazzle time, which is my favorite part of the whole process because I just get to like watch a movie and stick jewels on, and it's just mindless. Honestly, one of the things I like most about crafting is just the insane focus on one task. Like, I don't have to think about anything else. I don't have to worry about anything else because for like an hour, maybe, I'm just sticking jewels on. And that brings me peace. It does. But before I could jump right to bedazzling, I needed to finish the dress. So I measured and cut all the plastic zip ties I would need for the bones. I laid them all out in order and then used a permanent marker to label which bones go with which channels. Cutting and sanding the little plastic zip ties is my least favorite part of doing any corset-like project. And so I've been trying to come up with like ideas for how to make it not so miserable. And we're trying something new today. Collect them all and hope for the best. Behold, my new sanding tool that my husband found in our garage. I think it was originally my mom's, but she doesn't need it, and it's mine now, so she can't have it back. And it makes real short work of sanding the pointy parts off of the plastic bones. But really, filing the plastic zip ties down is my all-time least favorite part of corset making. Not that this project is really even a corset, but it has bones, and I hate sanding them down. But now it only takes like 5 minutes with the rotary sander, so I'm taking that as a big giant win for me. Once I got the bones in and secured, I moved on to the skirt. My goal was to utilize as much of the leftover fabric as possible. I thought about using actual math to calculate the curvature of the angles and other math terms I would need, but I very quickly just decided to cut it by eye and suffer any consequences later. Besides, I had my pink measuring tape with me, and nothing can ever go wrong when I use it to guesstimate how long or wide I should cut something. I ended up with various similarly sized skirt panels, None of them were exactly the same, but I did the best that I could, and it totally worked. So I did the obvious thing and overlocked them all together to form one big skirt. And look, it wraps around me, you know, more than once, almost, kind of, I don't know. This is all very good, and I'm totally on track, so let's keep going. Time to sew some gathering stitches. This bobbin thread almost ran out while I was doing those running stitches, but we got lucky. We got so lucky. Bobbin roulette is not a game. It will screw you up. And bobbin roulette will screw you up. It totally sucks when you've been happily sewing along lengths of fabric only to discover that your bobbin thread ran out many yards of fabric earlier. I gathered the skirt down to my desired length and pinned it to my bodice right sides together. And then I sewed through all those layers. And because this is a lot of really thick layers, I had to pull the fabric through the machine a little bit. But if you do this, be very careful not to break or rip anything because accidents totally happen. And then I moved on to marking the holes for the grommets. I finally got one of those little measuring tools and I absolutely love it. Every time I use the punchy hole puncher tool to punch actual holes in my fabric, I always get people that say, don't punch holes in your fabric, that's the bad way to do it. You should use an awl. And you know what? I don't disagree with them. I should use an awl. But do you know what I don't have? An awl. I don't have one. Well, okay, I have one, but it's too small. It won't punch a hole big enough to fit the bigger grommets in. And I want to use the bigger grommets because I think they are just all around better. They fit nicer, they look better, they like crimp together nicer. So what I do instead is I do punch a hole and then I do a little bit of E6000 around the punchy part of the hole and hope for the best. And so far it's working. It's working just fine. One of these days I will actually order an awl, but today's not that day. Today is a day for just finishing stuff as quickly as possible and then going to get hamburgers for dinner. It's fine. What I really could do is put some glue on the back part too. You know what? I'm about to do that. That'll make it even more secure. Also, I never lace these up very like tight. They're not meant to be like super tight. They're just meant to stay on. It's fine. It is fine. This method will work perfectly well until I order a bigger awl. And honestly, with the E6000 glue squished in there as well, these little bad boy grommets aren't going anywhere. And I eventually will find and purchase an awl for this exact purpose. So if you're watching this and just waiting for me to use the pliers to punch holes in my fabric so that you can call me out, go ahead. But just know that I am fully aware of this situation and I am making steps to improving myself. So waste your time if you want, but it's not going to change my already decided awl purchasing path of life. Thank you. From my high school theater. I kind of like it though. You know what? We're gonna try something. Okay, this made it so much worse. The shape is wrong. It is terrible and it is wrong. But I'm looking at this and I think I can take up a decent amount of the hem and make it like shorter and poofier. And hopefully that will make it not look so like this. And let's not beat around the bush. When I say like this, I mean limp and wimpy. So I installed 2-inch thick horsehair braid along the entire hem of the skirt in a desperate attempt to add some volume. Originally, when I started planning this dress, I was gonna do the star decals on it and I made glitter felt to do that with. But one of my friends on Instagram suggested doing snowflakes instead of doing stars. And I have these foam snowflakes that honestly will probably work just fine. So I'm gonna play around and see, do I really wanna do snowflakes or do I wanna do stars? I haven't quite decided yet, but I have options for both. And because the snowflakes were already cut out and ready to go, I chose the snowflakes. At first I thought I would sew each snowflake on individually, and after about 3 minutes of sewing them to the dress bodice, I said, no way I'm doing 40 more of those, so I just peeled the sticker backs off the snowflakes and stuck them onto the velvet. The foam stickers aren't really that sticky, which is actually a good thing because I'm probably going to take pictures of the dress with the snowflakes and then just peel the stickers off and permanently glue on the stars, like in the original dress. But it was really a nice thing to have some options for this part because sometimes crafting is like ordering a specialty pizza. At first, all the options sound like good options, so you just order everything that you can on your pizza, but then when it gets delivered, you realize that maybe more isn't always better, except for when it is, which in a lot of cases, more is actually better. Okay, you know what? You don't come here for analogies, you come here to make stuff. Why do you come here? Tell me in the comments and help me feel less lost. Like, why do you even watch these videos? What are you even doing right now? At the beginning of this whole process, I actually put effort into like having my hair done and looking nice, and now I don't care. And why don't I care? Because it's taking too long. This right here It's not looking too bad, but I am a long way from finishing, and I have a photo shoot scheduled today in 6 hours, so I've got to get going on this. With T-minus 6 hours before the photo shoot, it was time to bedazzle like I've never bedazzled like I've never bedazzled before. I always do this to myself. Past me loves a good deadline, and present me is always stressed about meeting said deadlines. Another thing that I continuously find myself doing is trying to replicate pre-existing textiles by manipulating fabrics that I already have instead of just buying the pre-existing textiles. And that's how I find myself spending 6 hours individually gluing gemstones onto stuff at least every other week. My desire to create something from nothing is perpetually stronger than my desire to make things easy on myself. And that's nuts. Like, that's who I am, and would I change it? Absolutely I would. Taking the hard road isn't always rewarding, and sometimes it means accidentally hot gluing your fingers to a velvet dress over and over and over and over. I'm sitting here trying to edit these videos, and I'm realizing now, like this very second, that all of the reveal footage I took last night was taken in slow motion. And so I first of all look ridiculous, and second of all it's like, oh no, like really, really bad audio. I will not apologize for art. The first few clips are actually kind of aesthetic in slow motion, but the majority of the footage is just really awkward, and I took the audio out of it because it was kind of hard to listen to and really embarrassing. I can't walk in these shoes. I thrifted them for like $5 a couple of years ago. Yep, never learned how to walk in them. Yikes. But look at the spin on that skirt. Disclaimer, I did not have enough jewels to bedazzle the back side of the costume. I've made this dress way too big. And I thought I was making it small. I thought I cut it small, but it keeps falling down. Oh, girl. Not great.
Glitter cam.
These little sparkly glitter snowflakes, they cut like razors into your armpits. Yeah, I don't actually recommend using the die-cut glitter snowflakes near your armpits. The glitter is like sandpaper rubbing on your skin, and after about 10 minutes of that and almost busting my ankle several times in those shoes, we decided to pack things up and go get some ramen. But here are some pictures we took. You would almost never know how miserable I am by looking at them. It was also freezing cold outside when we took pictures because, again, it is the dead of winter here in the northern hemisphere, but that's nothing that a hot bowl of delicious ramen can't fix. Get that egg. Okay, my thoughts on this. First of all, it's too big and I did run out of gems, so the entire back side of the skirt has no sparkle on it. I think I will eventually spend the time to put the glitter on it and probably resize the top a little bit. There's not a ton I can do there just because it already has a whole bunch of glue on it. Oh, I also am just gonna like peel these stickers off. Like they're literally just stickers, they stick right on. And then cut out star shapes from the glitter felt and then permanently glue those on so that it's a little closer to the original inspiration. I'll show that here somewhere just so you can kind of see it again. Yeah, I gave it a solid 7.5 out of 10. I do think the silhouette looks really nice, and again, if it would fit me better, I would like it a lot more. Just constantly having to pull it back up was a hassle, and I could never actually wear it anywhere because who wants to spend all night, you know, like messing with your dress. I am pretty proud about the design of the sparkles on the skirt though, because I know it's never gonna look exactly like the textile from the original dress. There's just no way that I can replicate that. But I feel like I got the vibe, the general sparkliness and like these lines. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Anyways. Glitter everywhere now. If you enjoyed this video, please feel free to like and subscribe. More videos are on their way soon, and in this house, we craft in pajamas.
next shoot, I need to figure out the gimbal thing because this drives me nuts.